welcome to the frottage workshop. Now, what is frottage, I hear you ask? Well, it's the technique or the process of taking a rubbing of an uneven surface. For this, you will need some paper, crayons, oil pastels or a graphite stick, some glue and some scissors. You'll need to look around the place to see what interesting surfaces you've got. Things like wood grain, bricks, leaves or floors all work really well. If you do use a leaf, you will need to turn it over so you've got the bumpier side facing up so that you get the nice texture come through when you take the rubbing. Now, it's an easy process. You place the piece of paper over the surface of the texture and you take your tool. I'm using a graphite stick, but you can use the crayons if you've got crayons, and you take a rubbing. Now, what you'll find will happen is it will pick up all the uneven parts of the surface that you have there. Once you've done that, you can use them to make a picture. Now you can see here that I have created a very simple basic drawing. Now I'm doing a landscape. I've used very simple lines because they're only a guide. You're not going to see them once you have finished using these frottage pieces. You're not going to see them once you've stuck them down, basically. So you stick them down. Try and follow the shapes that you've drawn as much as possible. Sometimes it will be possible. Sometimes you'll have to be a bit creative and rip them into smaller parts. And try and make sure you stick everything down really, really well. Go right up to the edges so you don't have any flapping parts of the paper. And then really press it down and smooth it over. Keep going until you've filled the space with the texture or the frottage rubbing that you want to use. Now, I think it's really important that you try and think very carefully about which texture is going where in a picture, whether you're doing a landscape or whether you're doing a bug or whether you're doing a picture of a flower and you're just using different textured surfaces. Think really carefully about what goes where. I've chosen this one for the sky because it was the most neutral. For me, that meant it wasn't so busy. The sky in the picture that I was drawing was not very busy. It just had nice, smooth sky with a few clouds in it. This, although it is textured, was the least dark, so I wanted that to be the sky. Don't be afraid just to tear the paper. You don't need to cut it perfectly. I'm going to speed things up a bit here. As you can see, I'm going through and I'm ripping and tearing things, and sometimes drawing lines to give me a guide. Sometimes I cut with scissors and sometimes I'm ripping. Perfection is not what I'm after with this piece. What we're looking for is that you're able to use these textures in a really interesting and imaginative way. And once you're happy with it and you've got it all stuck down, then you'll see that the picture starts to come together. Now at the moment the picture's quite busy, and while I'm sticking down little interesting details, I'm just going to talk about that a little bit. Now the picture's quite busy because everything's sitting there on a level playing field. Nothing stands out, nothing's darker or lighter particularly. I've got different textures next to each other deliberately so they stand out, but they still don't really stand out because it's all just a very busy picture. So what I've started to do is to shade into my frottage pieces, highlighting some areas and making other areas darker to create a tonal balance, so you can start seeing that there's distance being created. Think really carefully about which bits you need to shade and which bits you don't. You only want to do it around the areas that you want to stand out. As a rule of thumb, things at the front would be a bit lighter, things further away would be a little bit darker. You can also see that I've gone through and highlighted with a rubber to bring back some life into that sky. There you have it, that's my frottage landscape. Just another way that you can use mark making.